Throughout his life, Parker Schnabel has been renowned for his dogged determination, knack for finding wealth at a distance, and ambitious spirit. Fertile soil. He entered the mining profession at an early age with an unwavering resolve, and he transformed his family's small business into one of the most prosperous enterprises during the gold rush. But his most recent find, a long-lost gold mine in the middle of nowhere, may be the most remarkable thing he has found thus far. This might be the turning point in his mining career if the site rumors are accurate. As they were exploring uncharted areas for possible claims, Parker and his crew discovered a location that had been undeveloped for generations. Signs of unfathomable wealth were visible in this ancient mine, in contrast to most that had long since been emptied of its riches. In the low light, golden veins set in nearly undisturbed granite glistened. Despite the mine's advanced age, its structure betrayed the expertise of its previous operator. It wasn't the aftermath of an irresponsible stampede during the gold rush. It was a lot more systematic, like a treasure map that had gone missing and needed to be found. Parker eagerly staked his claim to the location, determined to unearth its secrets and explore its depths. However, the deeper they dug, the more enigmatic it seemed. The initial miners had left a very promising site. Why had they left? Is there something beneath the surface that is too big for them to manage? Parker had previously made some of his most significant financial moves up until the time of this revelation. Buying Dominion Creek for $15 million was a daring, high-stakes move that could not have gone wrong. He wanted land that could produce at an unprecedented level with his enormous team and soaring operational costs. Parker said in an interview that we are not a nimble, small group. Our enormous enterprise requires a lot of ground and a lot of ounces out of the earth to keep afloat. My number one concern was that we created this really good staff and I didn't want to have to split that apart. I was really scared about that. Dominion Creek was showing its value despite the great pressure. An astonishing 7,381.10 ounces of gold was extracted from his first significant dig, the so-called money pit, in only 6 months. The acquisition seemed like a great move, even though the haul was smaller than the one from Season 9. The worth of the discovery about equaled the $15 million he had invested, though. However, that was only the start. According to the calculations, there might be up to $160 million worth of gold hidden within its expansive surface. Now that this long-lost abandoned mine is a factor, Parker's luck might be about to take a dramatic turn for the better. Something shone out the moment Parker and his crew started evaluating the mine's potential. It was flawless gold. This gold appeared to have been unspoiled for generations, in contrast to nuggets discovered at previous mining sites that sometimes had indications of mercury pollution and antiquated methods. Even more astounding is the fact that the crew had already retrieved more than 100 g of gold after only a few hours of test digging. Outperforming the usual outcomes in the Yukon, this yield was unprecedented. Also, compared to Parker's typical activities, the site's conditions were ideal. The permafrost in the Yukon needed costly and time-consuming thawing operations, but this land was much easier to work with. Heavy machinery and enormous dozers weren't needed. Just straightforward, effective mining. Almost too good to be true, it seemed. Then an even more shocking turn of events occurred. Not everyone shared Parker's obsession with unrealized wealth. An additional miner by the name of Kono had been laboriously excavating a 150-foot trench nearby in the vain hope of striking it rich at bedrock, the layer with the greatest concentration of gold. However, the funds and time needed to run Kono's operation were borrowed. He had risked everything on the site, spending tens of thousands of dollars in a desperate attempt to get a windfall that would change his life. He would be bankrupt in the event of his failure. Parker was well acquainted with this difficulty. In his own life he had encountered comparable perilous situations. Profession where the line between success and failure always appeared to be blurry. The unfaltering will of Kono was something he couldn't help but admire. There was more to gold mining than just making money. The unwavering conviction that a single successful strike could transform everything was central to the story. However, when Parker's crew continued their investigation, they came to the realization that it would be no simple task to reveal the mine's actual potential. They encountered unanticipated bedrock movement as a result of the historic river systems they were traversing. Finding treasure while only having a partial map was the analogy I used. The days dragged on, and the stress rose as each turn brought new obstacles. Unsteadiness pervaded the terrain. The mechanism wasn't impervious to error, and the time seemed to go on forever. Nothing would have been accomplished if they weren't able to strike it rich shortly. However, Parker sensed something. This place was unique in some way. A sense of excitement and an indescribable sense of impending greatness pervaded the atmosphere. After days of non-stop work, it finally occurred. Finally, the crew made it to bedrock. All eyes were fixed on the excavation site as the machines roared and dirt flew. Gold came next. There is a huge deposit shining beneath the surface, not only a few particles. Miners fantasize of finds like these. Findings that have the potential to skyrocket Parker's operation. One thing was quite evident as Parker and his colleagues reveled in their triumph. It was only the start. After centuries of secrecy, the mine finally gave up its secrets. Unfortunately, its riches were now becoming public knowledge. Parker Schnabel's prospects for a prosperous future in gold mining were more promising than ever before, what with Dominion Creek having proven its worth and this new site offering untold riches. However, enormous difficulties accompany good fortune. There will be many challenges on the way ahead. The next big question is whether Parker and his crew can make a sustainable operation out of this famous find, given the unpredictable geology and heavy competition. Or will the specters of bygone days try to get their hands on the loot again? I can tell you this much. Everything could be altered by this finding. The narrative of Parker Schnabel, the famed gold miner, is one of dogged determination, calculated risk-taking, and unquenchable thirst for success. He came from a mining family. He was born on July 22, 1994 in Alaska. John Schnabel, Parker's grandpa, owned the storied Big Nugget mine, where the young Parker learned about mining even before he could read. He began helping out around the mine with little chores when he was just 5 years old. Plus, he had the assurance of an expert when he was just a youngster running heavy gear. The Yukon to Big Nugget, a daring leap of faith. A pivotal choice was presented to Parker at his high school graduation. Obtain a bachelor's degree or commit himself entirely to mining. His contemporaries, on the other hand, chose option 2 and, following his grandfather's retirement, assumed control of Big Nugget Mine. The change was challenging. He was in charge of a group of miners who were much more seasoned and senior to him. However, his enthusiasm and expertise were more than sufficient to gain their admiration, and he did it in no time at all. Success came to Big Nugget under his guidance. Still, Parker was willing to take a chance in order to reach his loftier goals. His breakthrough came with the Discovery Channel series Gold Rush, which catapulted him to stardom. His incredible work ethic and courage in the face of enormous peril were on full display in the program, which followed him as he traveled. He took a risk by putting all of his college savings in a new Yukon claim. A high-stakes venture that could have gone horribly wrong ended up paying off in ways he could never have predicted. The dangerous truths of extracting gold. Parker has never hid the fact that mining is a difficult profession. It is one of the most difficult industries to thrive in due to the long hours, uncertain weather, and constant pressure to produce gold. Despite everything, Parker is grateful to his grandpa for teaching him to keep going even when things get tough. Parker benefited greatly from John Schnabel's knowledge and expertise. His legacy will continue to shape Parker's professional path even after he has passed away. It hasn't been cheap for Parker to be so committed. Relationships and a more conventional social life have frequently taken a back seat to his dogged quest of wealth. Parker has spent his adolescence negotiating the enormous constraints of keeping his firm afloat and managing multi-million-dollar mining operations, unlike many young adults who spend their 20s traveling or partying. He has become one of the most revered personalities in contemporary gold mining due to his dogged pursuit of achievement. However, it hasn't created much space for anything else. Parker stays dedicated to innovation at all times. Parker invests in state-of-the-art equipment and tirelessly searches for new ways to increase efficiency. In spite of the hurdles, he keeps pushing the limits of what is possible in gold mining. He sees more to mining than the prospect of finding riches. It's all about leaving a lasting impression. His most recent substantial investment, Dominion Creek, exemplifies that drive. He took a huge gamble by investing $15 million in a new claim, but the early returns seem promising. Parker appears to have a promising future ahead of him, with a legacy on the horizon, thanks to the estimated $160 million worth of gold that has yet to be discovered. Throughout his whole career, from his humble beginnings at Big Nugget to his incredible seasons in the Yukon, Parker Schnabel has demonstrated unwavering resolve, perseverance, and an unhealthy obsession with achieving his goals. New difficulties and greater rewards await you in every season of Gold Rush. Repeatedly demonstrating that the brave are the ones who prosper in the gold mining industry. Nothing is ever going to stop Parker from improving and growing his business. He has a long journey ahead of him. Yet,